Let's begin with a structural overview. Welcome to another lecture, where we try to understand cultural phenomena with the same patience we reserve for a good endgame in chess. Today we consider the 79th Tony Awards, held at Radio City Music Hall in New York City in June 2026. I am Professor Alexei, and with me is Priyanka, who will keep us honest with questions that, as it were, cut to the heart of the matter.
Hi everyone. I'm Priyanka. I'm curious about how these ceremonies actually shape what we all end up watching or listening to later. But first, definitions might help.
Before we get to the complexities, it's important to understand the basic architecture. The Tony Awards recognize excellence in Broadway productions, jointly presented by the American Theater Wing and the Broadway League. Eligibility, in this context, is not a vague concept. A production must open within a defined window and perform in one of 41 legitimate Broadway theaters, meeting professional and union standards that ensure, among other things, a consistent technical baseline across lighting, sound, and stagecraft. The 2026 ceremony covered shows opening from April 2025 through April 2026, with nominations announced in May 2026. Terminology briefly. Broadway, the cluster of eligible professional houses in and around New York's theater district. Revival, a new production of a previously produced play or musical, where the evaluative question is interpretive urgency rather than novelty. Book of a musical, the narrative spine and dialogue that carry the story between and through songs. Original score, music and/or lyrics written specifically for the production at hand. Pre-ceremony, often branded Act 1, an early broadcast segment. In 2026, it streamed free on Pluto TV, awarding design and craft categories and priming audiences for the main telecast on CBS and Paramount+.
Maybe a simple check. When we say score, that can belong to a play too, right? Like music underscoring a non-musical.
Clearly. In 2026, we even observed the play, Death of a Salesman, nominated for original score elements, which is a useful reminder that sound worlds shape drama, even absent sung text. This brings us to relevance. The Tonys, to some extent, function as Broadway's annual economic accelerator. Visibility on a national telecast correlates with measurable ticket demand, and nominations or wins can recalibrate a show's commercial trajectory overnight. For example, adaptations from screen are often a fraught exercise. Therefore, Schmigadoon's success as Best Musical, with dual wins for Cinco Paul in book and original score, demonstrates that a television origin is not disqualifying, when the theatrical craft is, as it were, fully optimized for the stage.
I guess that's why producers care so much about the broadcast moments that get clipped and shared later. It's like marketing compressed into 3 minutes.
Let's start with the history of this particular year. The 79th ceremony was a pivot, after a long stretch under White Cherry Entertainment, with Ricky Kirshner and Glenn Weiss from 2004 through 2025. The 2026 telecast was produced by Raj Kapoor, Sarah Levine Hall, and Jack Sussman. Observers naturally watched for changes in pacing, segment curation, and cross-genre integrations. Pink hosted, a signal that the Tonys are unafraid of pop gravitational pull. The main show aired on CBS and streamed on Paramount+, with Act 1 free on Pluto TV, hosted by Laura Benanti and Titus Burgess. Results snapshot. Best Musical, Schmigadoon, with 4 total awards, and those notable dual wins for Cinco Paul in book and original score. Best Play, Liberation. Best Revival of a Play, Death of a Salesman, which led the night with 6 awards, a decisive showing across direction and design. Best revival of a musical, Ragtime, whose leads, Joshua Henry and Casey Levy, took the top acting prizes in musical categories. The Lost Boys and Schmigadoon tied for the most nominations at 12 each and converted 4 apiece. Richard O'Brien's The Rocky Horror Show garnered 9 nominations, yet, intriguingly, no wins.
And the performances. Those also shape the memory of a season, right?
Indeed. The opening mashup, Leading Lady Marmalade, folded together Pink, Neil Patrick Harris, Shoshana Bean, Marla Mindell, Anne Harada, Christiane Pitts, Leah Michelle, June Squibb, Megan Thee Stallion, and Broadway inspirational voices. We observed medleys from Schmigadoon, Ragtime, Titanic, Cats, The Jellicle Ball, Two Strangers, and The Rocky Horror Show. Anniversary tributes threaded the telecast. Chicago's revival at 30, Rent at 30 with Leslie Odom Jr. performing Without You, The Book of Mormon at 15, and a chorus line at 50 led by Rachel Zegler. Special honors recognized Andre Bishop, Jules Fisher, James Lapine, Mary Mitchell Campbell, the League of Resident Theaters, American Players Theater, the 152nd Project with colleagues, and educator Freddie Hendricks. A personal note. I once attended a Tony ceremony from a balcony seat and discovered to my empirical delight that applause behaves like a wave equation. Energy originates in the orchestra section and travels outward. Revivals with beloved scores produce constructive interference. It is, if you will, physics meeting show tunes. The communal recognition the Tonys afford is not trivial. It stabilizes the ecosystem by honoring artists across performance, design, education, and regional practice.
So, yeah, moving on. Can we pose a few big questions to unpack what changed in 2026 and what might change next?
To frame our discussion, 3 lines of inquiry. First, a historical question. What did the production shift to Raj Kapoor, Sarah Levine Hall, and Jack Sussman actually change in the show's texture? Second, a counterfactual. If the Rocky Horror Show had converted its 9 nominations into wins, how would the evening's narrative, and perhaps the season's memory, have been reframed? Third, a forward-looking question. How will the dual-platform strategy of CBS plus Paramount Plus, with a free Pluto TV pre-show, evolve to attract and retain broader audiences? Big question 1. Historically, White Cherry Entertainment gave the Tonys a recognizable cadence. Tightly directed camera language, brisk envelope turnover, and performance slots calibrated to broadcast rhythm. In 2026, the new producers signaled a different emphasis: cross-genre integration and social media-ready segments. We can infer this from choices like a pop star host, a starry pan-industry presenter roster, and those multi-anniversary tributes embedded as shareable set pieces. The pre-show's free-to-stream availability also widened the top of the funnel. Act 1 became not only a craft celebration, but a discovery mechanism.
What felt different on screen for a casual viewer? Like, if I tuned in without context, what would I notice first?
Arguably the ratio of spectacle to statuettes. We observed a front-loaded burst of performance energy and celebrity interludes. Consider Megan Thee Stallion presenting, Queen Latifah anchoring the Chicago tribute, and comedy segments with Ariana DeBose and Neil Patrick Harris, without sacrificing the spine of awards like Direction of a Play to Joe Mantello, or Direction of a Musical to the co-directing team of Jalen Livingston and Bill Rausch for Cats, The Jellicle Ball. Pacing felt engineered to maintain audience attention across platforms. a necessary adaptation when some viewers arrive via Paramount Plus or drift in from Pluto TV.
I think the co-credits also stood out. Lighting for The Lost Boys credited Michael Arden and Jen Shriver. Choreography for Cats credited Arturo Lyons and Omari Wiles. Is that collaboration emphasis part of the new tone or just the season's reality?
In simpler terms, both. The season's craft ecology featured repeat designers and cross-disciplinary leaders. Kai Harada, for instance, was nominated twice in sound design of a musical and won for Ragtime. The broadcast, curated by the new team, seemed comfortable foregrounding collaborative authorship, which aligns with contemporary practice, and one suspects, with the producer's intent to spotlight the making as much as the made. Big question 2. Counterfactual. Suppose the Rocky Horror Show had translated 9 nominations into a substantial win tally. The narrative center of gravity would likely have shifted from Death of a Salesman's design direction sweep and Schmigadoon's book score cohesion to a story about the canonization of a cult property. Media coverage tends to compress complexity into a headline. A Rocky Horror surge would have foregrounded camp aesthetics, audience participation traditions, and a revival's capacity to reframe transgressive material for the mainstream.
Does a dominant winner usually change audience behavior? Or is it more of a press narrative thing?
We observe both effects. Dominance generates what economists would call informational cascades. Undecided consumers infer quality from awards density, which can produce ticket spikes, touring commitments, and cast album streaming bumps. If Rocky Horror had swept, the season's retrospective memory might have clustered around its iconography, rather than, say, the aesthetic unity of Death of a Salesman's scenic, lighting, and sound design, or the interpretive power of Ragtime's cast. Conversely, the actual outcome dispersed recognition. Schmigadoon, The Lost Boys, and Ragtime each won 4, while Salesman won 6, a distribution that prevents a single brand from monopolizing attention.
Building on that, The Lost Boys winning featured acting and design, but not Best Musical, still tells a story. Excellence in parts can drive full show curiosity.
Precisely. Awards are signals, not proofs. A featured performance win for Shoshana Bean, or scenic design for Dane Laffrey, functions as a high-frequency beacon that can draw audiences on its own terms. Big question 3. Strategy in the streaming era. The 2026 producers embraced a split-platform approach. CBS for linear reach, Paramount Plus for on-demand access, Pluto TV for free pre-show discovery. The logic is familiar from media economics. Widen the top of the funnel with no barrier content. Convert to premium engagement for the marquee event. Extend shelf life with on-demand. The open question is optimization. What is the ideal choreography of segments to maximize conversion from Act 1 to the main telecast? Which categories belong where? How to time performance slots relative to peak concurrency on the app?
What do you think happens next with streaming? Like, are we going to see more interactivity or just more platforms?
It is worth noting that live events must balance liveness with time-shifted consumption. Future iterations could test second-screen dramaturgy, synchronized behind-the-scenes feeds during design awards, opt-in AR stage models for scenic nominees, real-time non-voting audience prompts that never impinge on the Academy's integrity but enhance comprehension. Research avenues include A/B testing the order of performances, measuring conversion from Pluto TV to Paramount Plus, cohort analysis of Theater Insider versus casual viewer retention, and the elasticity of sponsor integrations that do not break narrative flow.
And there's a civic angle too. The Regional Theatre Tony Award for American Players Theatre and the Special Tony for the League of Resident Theatres point to pipelines beyond Broadway. Streaming could maybe highlight those ecosystems more visibly.
Fundamentally, yes. The telecast is a summit meeting of interdependent sectors, from education, exemplified by Freddie Hendricks' recognition, to regional R&D. Packaging those stories for digital audiences may broaden the art form's perceived addressable market. In simpler terms, more people may see themselves in the narrative of theater. In conclusion, the 79 Tony Awards affirm the Tony's dual function as artistic ledger and commercial amplifier. We defined the terms of eligibility and craft. We noted the year's signature outcomes, Schmigadoon, as Best Musical with Cohesive Book and Score by Cinco Paul, Liberation as Best Play, A Dominant Death of a Salesman in Revival and Design, and Ragtime's Revival paired with leading performance wins. We examined a production handover that reshaped tone and reach. We considered a Rocky Horror counterfactual, and we projected how hybrid platforms might evolve.
So, I guess that kind of sums it up. More to study in how audiences move from a free pre-show to a premium stream, and how performance clips keep working long after awards night. Thank you, Professor.
This concludes our lecture for today. May your applause be resonant and your signal-to-noise ratio high.